So if you look at the summary, or you read the summary of Angloid, it says an anorexic, alcoholic, self-loathing artist must forge an appearance of normalcy in order to become employed at a Colfax diner. But how long can she maintain the facade? So that is a bare minimum what this book is about. I started reading this book and they introduced the character Angloid. And at first you're like, okay, well, who is this guy and why is he a jerk and why is he off-putting and why does anybody try to be nice to him? Why is he so difficult? And you see a lot of ideas of self-loathing, and you see like a lot of these almost magical realism things where they think they see an eye or they see this, and you think, okay, the person's just nuts. But then at the end of each part, you have these kind of alien-looking creatures that talk about Angloid. And in the second part, you find out that Angloid is really a female, but she prefers to dress in this androgynous style. It's very thin, and people that don't know her think it's a guy, which was an interesting surprise. And that's where it made sense. We're like, why are they talking about this female? Like, who's this female? And you realize, oh, it's Angloid. And so the story is that they're not really doing she's not really doing her art, and she's behind on her rent. So eventually, to pay for her rent, she decides, okay, I'm gonna have to really assume the form, dress and all that of a woman. And it's, I don't know if it's meant this way, but it's almost like when you sell out to make money. And again, before this chapter, you have these aliens. You can tell these aliens have a vested interest, especially one of them. These beings have a special vested interest in Angloid and their well-being. And so Angloid decides, okay, I'm going to wear this tight dress and I'm going to wear something that's going to accentuate my figure, and I'm going to start looking for a job. But then she runs into a lot of sexist behavior by men. Men are like, oh, you know, the eye sticking out, like, yeah, I want to hire her. And then you have women that are like threatened by her because she's a rather attractive female when she wants to be. And guys hit on her. And all she wants to do is a job. And then when she comes home, she becomes this androgynous self again until she gets a job. And she's hired on this job specifically because the owner thinks she's hot. And the other women resent her for that because she's not experienced in working in a diner. And so you have commentary about how women who are found to be attractive, how they're treated, some of the things that are expected of them, the difficulties they have, not only from other men, but from other women. This character comes in and starts trying to give her advice, and you realize that these beings are like spiritual beings. They're not angels, but they are trying to use human hosts to connect with her, to kind of help her along. It's almost like a guardian angel kind of thing. And so there's a lot of contemplation about the cosmos, how we fit in, our place in it, how difficult it is to be a human being, but how wonderful it is to be a human being as well. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of spirituality in here, but not religion. And then you have her dealing with how to be this attractive female, the form that she does not care for, but she has to do it so she can start paying her rent and stuff. She finds love, and her life starts going on in better directions. But then, you know, the art community in Seattle knows who Angloid is. So eventually that past bad behavior catches up with her. And I'm not going to get to the end and spoil it, but it's one of these books where at first you're reading it and you're like, what's going on here? Who is this character? I really don't like this character. But then you feel sympathetic toward the character regardless, and then you start liking them. And there's a lot of thoughts on being unable to control your drinking, being self-loathing, why you're self-loathing, being an attractive woman in society, the pressures of being an artist, but trying to make a living. Just a lot of things going on in this book whose art style is rather simple, and it looks rather simple, but that's done on purpose because like this is how Angloid's drawn, but then like you look here and there's more complete drawings with cross-hatching here, and even in this one ending sequence where Angloid is taking a bus, you see here like the bus driver is drawn more traditionally, let's say. So it's not that they're drawing like this because that's the way they can only draw. They're drawing this for a reason, drawing this character in a way for a reason. And then at the end of the book, you have this picture of Alice Graham, age 23, at a gallery in Colfax Avenue. And then this is a gallery that closed permanently in 2015, and now it's a men's clothing boutique. So it's that whole thing of like, how much of this is autobiographical and how much of this is story? Really can't tell. And I actually did read a review of this from the Comics Journal, and I don't think it's a Comics Journal, but sometimes their reviews, they're trying to be like The Economist or The New Yorker and get really down some really nebulous tangents. Like they really get into certain things. I mean, some of the reviews are really good and on point, but sometimes you're reading it and I'm like, what are you really trying to say here? And so I really didn't get much. I was trying to figure out, okay, what did she have to say? What did someone else have to say? Maybe I understood this book more than I did have to say, but I really didn't glean anything from that. But if you liked Dog Biscuits, I think you'll like this, but it's a totally different story, totally different storytelling approach. There's some darkness, but there's a lot of commentary here about how difficult it is to be an artist and balancing art with trying to make a living, being a person that has self-destructive tendencies, and how that impacts us. It's not a moral lesson. It's just like almost like a character study, but there's no lessons. There's no talking to the reader like, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's just this character. And at the end, you do actually, more and more you read, the more sympathy you have. So it's a different type of book. It's a great book. I enjoyed it. I read it in 2 days. It's a great read. So if you see it, you may want to check it out. Thanks.